All right, everybody. Sooners Illustrated game preview time. Week 13, game 11. Number 8, Oklahoma. Number 22, Missouri. Saturday morning in Norman. It's 11 a.m. kick on ABC. Josh Callaway, Collin Kennedy, Tom Green here with you to set the table for this one. Here we go again. Another huge game, just as it has been every week in the SEC. It seems like this season for Oklahoma, even on like a down week, it's still a ranked team. It's still with a ton on the line, and it's still, I think, by most measures, people would consider the second biggest game in the country this weekend. Maybe the first, depending on who you ask. I mean, there's a lot on the line this weekend for Oklahoma and Missouri. Guys, we talk about it all week long, and certainly coming out of the Alabama win last weekend in Tuscaloosa. Everything out in front of this team. They got 2 home games to get to the playoff. Step 1, Eli Drinkwitz and the Missouri Tigers, who obviously won probably the low point of last year, the loss for Oklahoma out in Columbia. A chance to get some redemption at home. Here we go. I mean, everything on the line for this team. Can they go handle their business? That's the question the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, definitely one of the biggest games in the country this week, given what's at stake, but also it's just kind of a stinker of a slate.
Only 2 ranked matchups. This is one of them.
Yeah. SoCon Saturday is kind of back in the SEC for a lot of teams this week before rivalry week. But yeah, I mean, look, this is what we talked about before the season. It's like, can this team get to November and play meaningful football? And to, come back home after 2 big road wins against Tennessee, against Alabama, and to now, that if this team wins out, they're going to be in the playoff. They checked in at number 8 on the rankings on Tuesday night. As of right now, they're in position to host a first-round game if they can win out and get there, but they have to get there. And this Missouri team is another challenge for them. It's a very good defense, obviously the best running back in the country right now. And look, if Oklahoma can win this, not only does it take them a step closer, it's another win against a team ranked in the college football playoff top 25. And that is a resume builder that can, maybe be the difference between hosting a first round game or not hosting a first round game when everything shakes out, depending on what the SEC race looks like, depending on what the Big Ten race looks like when all things settled out. So this is a big one.
And I said it in the instant reaction with you, Josh. I'll say it again. Whether this is a rivalry game, I'm not going to get into that debate. But there is no one who would enjoy spoiling the Sooner season more than Eli Drinkwitz. And on that note, what I will say, obviously there's a lot to talk about within this game. And to some degree, there are some layers that deflate the matchup. But I just want to say to Tom's point, it's a really good Missouri football team. I think if they were at full strength, and we'll talk about that a little bit more, would be another team that would be fighting for a push at the college football playoff. They've had some ups and downs. They have yet to, I believe, record a win over an AP-ranked team this season. They obviously struggle mightily to win in Norman, and they're looking to make history, basically getting back-to-back wins over Oklahoma for the first time since, I believe, the mid-'60s. But in the end of it all, too, I joked about this with Gabe DeArmond, our publisher of our Mizzou site, too, off the heels of last year's game as well, where, that one was as chaotic as ever. Just really fun to see these 2 teams squaring off again with a little bit more on the line compared to what we were talking about a season ago.
Yeah, I mentioned it on the Thursday pod with you, Collin. I'm expecting a phenomenal crowd this weekend. It's just a lot on the line, and this is just one of those. It's a weird spot of a game because for Oklahoma, I think a lot of Oklahoma fans are confident and feeling good, but there's that little bit of nervousness of like, oh man, what if they come out and they're not ready and they don't handle the success the Alabama win well and they blow it. Like everything's in front. Like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel to get to the playoff for these 2 home games. You got to handle your business. But on the other side, Missouri, this is a game that they have not won under Eli Drinkwitz. They do not have a win anywhere close to what this would be to come be a top 10 Oklahoma team on the road. Under Eli Drinkwitz, basically Missouri has mastered not having bad losses, but not having any good wins either, or like wins to really hang your hat on. Like they're the definition of that. And like you look at what they've done this season, they're 7-3. Their 7 wins are all games they should have won. They handled their business. Their 3 losses are the 3 times they played a pretty good team. When they lost to Alabama, they lost to Missouri or Vanderbilt, And then what's the other one that I'm blanking on right now? Whatever. Another A&M. So it's like they just have they've perfected no bad losses, but also haven't really been able to jump up and get any of those big signature wins either. But that would certainly be this weekend for Eli Drinkwitz in this program if they were able to come do it in Norman. And like Collin said, they would love to come spoil Oklahoma's season and to wreck their playoff hopes, probably, more than likely, if they were to win this game. So going to be interesting. Should be a great crowd, like I said. A ton on the line. One of the biggest games in the country this weekend. On the injury side of things, for Oklahoma, pretty good. The availability report on Wednesday night, only 6 guys on it, which is stunningly low from what we got.
And three of those have been out for the whole season. So.
Right. The last 2 years of doing this, it's usually been quite a laundry list. Not the case this time. The big ones, obviously, are Mason Thomas and Gentry Williams. Both guys are listed as questionable. No Xavier Robinson. No Torrey Blaylock. Was some question, would they pop up on there? No. Also no Taylor Tatum, which is very interesting. I might get more of that in just a little bit. But for you guys, obviously, right now, R. Mason Thomas, we've been talking about it all week. Not sure if he's going to give it a go or not, but they've kind of shown like this defense can still be really good even without him and can still get a lot of pressure without him with the way Taylor Wine and some of these other guys have been playing. Where do your eyes go injury-wise with R. Mason? I mean, he's kind of the obvious one with R. Mason Thomas, and if they could get him back out there this weekend or not. Like we said, questionable on Wednesday.
Yeah, I mean, for me, of the guys that were listed, it starts with R. Mason Thomas.
Yeah.
Especially going up against, Missouri's rushing attack, having a guy that can get in the backfield like that. But I mean,
sure.
You talked about it last week. We saw them kind of flex that depth. Taylor Wine obviously came up huge.
Sure.
PJ Adewale had a career high in snaps played. They really leaned on Marvin Jones. We saw Danny Okoye get in there and do some good things too. So as far as the guys that are listed there, it's R. Mason Thomas, and will he be ready to go, or is it going to be another week before we see him return from that quad injury? But the fact that none of the running backs, other than Javonte Barnes, who's been on there every week since, the Texas game, the fact that none of those guys showed up, I think, is promising. Obviously, Xavier Robinson, I think it was a bruised his lower right leg there and came out for a little bit. Went to the injury tent, came out with a sleeve, returned to the game. Torrey Blaylock's been banged up too with that shoulder that he's been playing through. But, Brent Venables said it on Tuesday. It's like their depth is going to be tested this week. So to have Taylor Tatum not pop up on the injury report like he has in recent weeks, and maybe have him back in the mix as another healthy body to rotate into that backfield, I think is a promising sign for them going into this game.
The other layer to this injury report that I'll go ahead and address, I talked about this a little bit on the Power Mizzou pod. Gentry Williams being a late scratch last week felt that was a dark moment. I mean, it was a disappointment at that time, but this is a little bit grasping at straws. I acknowledge that. The fact that those young corners went into Tuscaloosa and legitimately helped Oklahoma beat Alabama, and now, even though they'll still probably be without their veteran leader, going into this game against Mizzou, a team that I believe has only amassed about 180 passing yards over the past couple of games through the air, this young secondary going against the Mizzou team this weekend that's far more run-oriented than it is pass, and they have a little bit of confidence to them. Mm-hmm. Losing R. Mason Thomas is tough, but Josh, to your point, that defensive line has shown it won't skip a beat without him. Kind of the same thing here with these corners. And so 2 primary losses defensively, still somewhat masked by what's going on the field for Oklahoma.
Now, on the other side of the equation, obviously big questions for Missouri at quarterback. Bo Pribula has been out the last few weeks. He was listed as doubtful on Wednesday. I did CBS HQ on Thursday morning with Gabe Yarman with our Power Mizzou site that Collin just referenced. They do a phenomenal job. And Gabe was asked then, does he believe Bo might play? And he said he kind of thinks he will. And if he had to bet one way or another, he would lean that Bo Pribula will play this weekend, which obviously is a bit of a surprise. I mean, they know. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's a program they know extremely well. But obviously, when the injury happened a few weeks ago, I mean, I'm no doctor, but it looked like, whoa, that guy's not playing again for a while. It was a gruesome, ugly injury. And listed as doubtful, which is not super encouraging. But the reports were that he was kind of running around, warming up last weekend, thought they maybe could even play a week ago for Missouri. He obviously did not in their win over Mississippi State. But there's some hope, and our own Matt Zenitz has reported that there's been optimism that maybe he could play this weekend. So if you're Oklahoma, you have to prepare for two quarterbacks, freshman Matt Zollers and Bo Pribula, because both guys are in play, it sounds like, to maybe be the guy on Saturday. So interesting to see what that looks like, because obviously before Pribula got hurt, Missouri was playing some pretty good football, but also like what version of Pribula are we going to get if he is out there? These are interesting wrinkles certainly going into Saturday, but we'll see which quarterback actually lines up for Missouri when we get there Saturday morning.
Let me start by saying I think we could all share a similar sentiment here. We are all very glad that Bo is okay, all things considered. I am extremely happy for him, because I think in the moment of that injury, anyone who watched looked at that and said, man, that's about as bad as it can get. And somehow, some way, he came out of that almost immediately, and the initial reports were he might be all right. He might be fine. So I'm incredibly happy for him, and I want to say I would love to see him play in this game. But, Tom, I mean, we're talking about a right-handed quarterback with a left ankle injury, and that then brings up the question, just how effective would he be, not only simply playing the position and doing what's required of him within this offense. I mean, how mobile would he be when facing this Oklahoma defensive line? How would he be able to navigate the pocket, step into some throws? If he does play, which it sounds like he might, I would love to see it, but I would also have some concerns about, especially facing this Oklahoma defense, like what exactly would that look like, and does that help or hurt Mizzou in the end? Yeah,
I mean, like if you throw out there Bo Pribula, who's obviously been their best option at quarterback this season, a guy that when he's healthy is a little bit slippery in the backfield, can do some things with his legs. But if he's out there and he's just not himself and not mobile, I mean, we saw it earlier this season with John Mateer, just how kind of ineffective he is when he's not bringing that +1 run game factor to there. And against this Oklahoma defense, like, you do not want an immobile quarterback dropping back there, because they will tee off against you and they will take advantage of it and make Missouri, further one-dimensional, and really need to lean on that run game, which obviously has, carried them for much of the season with Ahmad Hardy. And I'm sure we'll get back into that in a few minutes, but I'm really curious to see whether it's going to be Matt Zollers out there or whether Bo Pribula is going to give it a go.
No, definitely really interested in it. Just another wrinkle to the game. Obviously, going into Saturday, it's also, of course, all the Eli Drinkwitz other job rumors he's answered to about that. So some kind of weird things floating around Missouri going into this weekend. But it's a dangerous football team, and I think there was such a human nature for us, talking about the team, or certainly OU fans, to kind of be like, oh man, they got these two big road wins. Like, exhale. They're going to do this. They're going to reach the playoff. But it's like, at the same time, I think we all kind of know, like, these last two home games are not gimmies. I mean, there's a lot of good players on Missouri and certainly LSU when we get there next week. But give me a fun one, certainly coming up on Saturday, with some definite wrinkles and question marks about who it will or won't be on the field for both teams, really, on Saturday. Let's kind of get further into the matchup here. Let's do our keys to the game for Saturday, Oklahoma and Mizzou. Collin, you can get it started this week. What's something Oklahoma has got to do to win and beat the Tigers on Saturday?
I think it's as simple as stopping the run, right? I mean, you need to make sure that someone besides Ahmad Hardy in this outside zone-based scheme beats you. I mean, on one hand, this is the SEC's best rushing offense versus the SEC's best rushing defense. Mizzou's running for 241.7 yards per game. Oklahoma only allowing 82.2 on the ground to this point. Something's got to give. It's the unstoppable force versus the immovable object to a degree. And Gabe, our Mizzou publisher, asked me a really good question. He was like, hey, Oklahoma's defense is so good. Does OU go base defense and maybe protect its secondary and just have trust in its front? Or will they play up and try to take away Mizzou's run game while maybe admitting that's kind of the key to it? And I believe that Brent, going into this one, something that I think we skimmed over, he joked almost immediately, like, Ahmad Hardy has nearly 1,000 yards rushing after contact.
Crazy.
And he His exact words were, "I've never seen anything like that before." If Brent Venables
it was
is
a made up
talking,
stat.
yeah, if Brent is talking about a player that way, I refuse to believe he's going to let anyone other than like that individual beat them, right? And so I think that an elite rushing defense stopping Ahmad Hardy, that's really what this thing boils down to. And in the end, if you're Oklahoma, you stop Ahmad Hardy, you really like your odds because they only have one passing touchdown, guys, on the road this year. That's the worst in the FBS.
Wow, good stat.
They've only played 2 road games so far, though. Like their schedule is very front loaded with home games, and I think 4 of their last 5 are on the road. So they've only played 2. So it's a little bit misleading. But to your point, like they've not
still 1 and 2
do that on the road yet.
And I will say, why I think that I'm glad you brought that up. They have not had to go on the road and rely on someone really other than Ahmad Hardy. So you take that guy away in what we assume to be a hostile environment in Norman this weekend, it's going to be tough for Mizzou to counter.
Yeah, and just to kind of piggyback off that, but you look at, obviously, Ahmad Hardy's got like ridiculous numbers. We saw what he did last week against Mississippi State, 300 rushing yards.
Yeah, stupid.
But look at what he's done against top 25 teams this season. Against Alabama, against Vandy, against Texas A&M, he's averaging just 86 rushing yards per game, which Oklahoma would probably kill to have a running back averaging that this season. But when you're talking about the nation's leading rusher, being limited to that against quality defenses, I'm really intrigued to see just like how Oklahoma handles that and really how Missouri kind of navigates that, knowing just how he's been kind of bottled up against those teams.
Yeah, hand up. Like obviously we're busy on Saturdays. I was aware that Ahmad Hardy was having a good season, but I digging into the numbers this week. I mean, 1,300 yards. I mean, the most in the leading rusher in the country. Obviously, Missouri a top 5 rushing offense, but like Tom said, not the toughest schedule. They didn't play anyone in the non-con. I mean, their non-conference was laughable, right? And again, to Tom's point, again, they were at home until the middle of October. Right? They didn't go on the road, so. Really good player. Maybe the stats a little inflated, but nevertheless, like I agree, Collin. I mean, that's the top key. If you slow down Hardy, you feel like you're in great shape to win the game. So I agree totally. I'll give my key real quick. I think time possession is going to be kind of important in this game. Oklahoma last week, it skewed heavily because of the pick 6 and because of the short fields. It really messed around with time possession, but it was like 25-35 minutes of time possession, Oklahoma to Alabama. Like to get that a little closer to even this weekend. I think just even less so than time possession, as much as like it all works together, which is why I said it that way. But not having quick 3 and outs, like being able to get the defense a little rest when you can, because kind of tying into Collin's point, like Missouri's going to want to run the ball. Like that's their way that they're going to try and win this game. And so if you can avoid them being able to kind of wear you down over the course of 60 minutes. I think that would help quite a bit for Oklahoma on Saturday. I'm just envisioning a 4 or 5 minute drive, or even if they hold to a field goal, but then OU goes 3 and out, they're right back out there. They go right back to Hardy. Like that's kind of a recipe where you could see Hardy maybe break one or whatever, just using him as the obvious example. So that's a big one for me. Just offense being able to control the ball a little bit more than we've maybe seen here recently, I think will be important for the Sooners.
Yeah, I was going back and forth between 2 things. I was considering the turnovers just because, it seems like they've turned that faucet on and it's running full speed right now. But I'm going to go back to when we were talking to Ben Arbuckle on Tuesday about just how would he assess his offense through 10 games. And, his response was telling. He paused for a moment and had to think about it. Mm-hmm. But he said, he doesn't think that they've played their best 4 consecutive quarters of football yet this season on offense. And to me, I want to see how this passing attack kind of responds, because Missouri's got a solid run defense too. And we know that Oklahoma's backfield's a little bit banged up. And, the splits between before John Mateer was injured and after he was injured are just night and day. It's like 300 yards a game versus like 175 yards a game since he's been back. He's been more efficient of late, but I think that they're going to need to make some plays in the passing game to really be able to, to your point, extend that time of possession, kind of even that out a little bit, and just take some pressure off the running backs and take some pressure off the defense. So that they're not going 3 and out or having these short drives. They need to extend some drives, and I think to do that they're gonna need some big plays from John Mateer in that receiving core. Again, he's been a lot more efficient lately, but the explosive plays just haven't been there. They had 22 of them through the first 4 games and were tied for 12th in the nation in 20-yard passing plays. Over the last 6 games, they've got 13. It's just been lacking. They haven't been attempting many deep balls these last few weeks too. They've been able to win in spite of that. But I do want to see how the passing offense kind of responds against a Missouri defense that has been solid, but is especially strong up front.
Yeah.
I think what we're not talking about enough is Oklahoma in total defense 11th nationally. Could you take a guess at who is just above OU inside the top 10 in total defense?
Missouri.
Mizzou.
Though Oklahoma's allowing just a little bit less per play. But
I was about to say that now that stat's a little bit skewed because depending on where you look, Oklahoma better in some areas than Missouri. But the three of us were talking about it at the Brent Venables press conference around the week. This Mizzou defense, man, they're no joke. And I believe they're 16th in passing yards allowed. I haven't dove into a ton of the passing metrics, but this is not only a really good overall group for the Tigers defensively, they have been pretty effective in the passing game. And so how Oklahoma counters at a time where they sure could use some explosives, I am very fascinated by that key.
Yeah, and ironically, one of the few games where Oklahoma has had the explosive plays was Ole Miss, which is a game that they lost at home anyway. So I don't know. Who knows? We'll see what happens on Saturday. So players to watch. I'll get it started. I fully, honestly, hand up. I fully anticipated all week that I was actually going to probably roll with Jay Knott for this because I just, as crazy as it is, it kind of felt like he's the only guy. Like they need someone. But as we touched on earlier, the Wednesday availability report, none of the running backs were on there except for Javonte Barnes. So I'm not going to do that. I am going to take another running back though. I'm going to go with Taylor Tatum. I'm fascinated by this storyline with Taylor Tatum. He's been banged up all year. We saw him get 1 carry in Columbia where he got blown up in the backfield. It was as soon as he got the ball. It wasn't his fault. He's been injured all year. I think the assumption has been publicly that he's shutting it down. He's going to redshirt. He's going to leave Oklahoma. And he may very well still decide to leave Oklahoma at the end of the year, right? But he's played in 1 game. There's 2 games left. He can play and still redshirt the season the rest of the way. Xavier Robinson, Troy Blaylock, they're not on the availability report, but they're still not 100%. Like they're going to play this weekend, but they're banged up. Does Taylor Tatum get in this game at all? Does he have a role? I'm very intrigued by that because this is a guy that last year he had the fumbling issue, but he could clearly make plays, and he can make plays in the passing game. And so I'm intrigued by that. He's not on the availability report. It's like, is he going to get on the field and play? And if so, to what degree? And can he make an impact? I'm very intrigued by number 8 in Crimson on Saturday. I'm watching out for him. I'm going to be keeping a close eye on warm-ups. Like does he get on the field at all? And if so, what sort of impact does he have? I'm very interested in that. While the rest of these running back room is all banged up, he seems like maybe he's pretty healthy or one of the healthier ones of the group. Interested to see what that looks like on Saturday.
Yeah, and he had a passing touchdown against Missouri last year too. Remember?
That's right, he did. He threw it to Arnold. That's right. I forgot about that.
So I'm going to go to the other side of the ball. We talked about the importance of being able to bottle up Ahmad Hardy. And look, it's going to be a collective effort. But to me, I'm going to highlight David Stone, who's just been lights out against the run this season, and they're going to need that interior defensive line, certainly led by him when it comes to stopping the run, to be able to just not let Missouri create those lanes for Ahmad Hardy to break off these big runs and just chip away at them. So I'm going to highlight David Stone and really the run defense collectively, but a focus on him there at defensive tackle.
I'm going to go with this young offensive line. I think that with Fasusi and Foje and Eddie Pierre-Louis, we talked about them so much out of the Tennessee game. They went into Alabama and played a primary role, not only from a physicality standpoint, but from a discipline standpoint. couple of penalties here and there, but I thought that they played well. I'm just going to be honest, though, and it's no slight at those other opponents. I think this Missouri defensive line is one of the best in the SEC and one of the best in the country. I think that this group, that this young offensive line that has started to build some momentum now, is getting ready for arguably its toughest test yet as a unit. And on top of the just sheer talent from guys like Zion Young to Damon Wilson to familiar face and Chris McClellan, for all you Okies out there.
Yep.
There's talent. This Mizzou defensive line, I'm not ready to be like our Alabama guys. I love them. They just let the curse words fly, and I'm not trying to lose my job. But like these Mizzou defensive linemen got some S on their shoes. You know what I mean? Like they will get in there and get muddy, get into the dirty work, and they bring a level of physicality and aggression that you don't always see. And to Tom's point earlier, to Josh, what you're talking about, whether Oklahoma needs to create explosives, run the football with whoever is in there, this young offensive line has been feeling itself a little bit, but they're getting ready to face some guys on the Mizzou defensive line who will just flat out punch them in the mouth and let them hear about it. How they respond in the flow of the game, I'm fascinated by that dynamic in the trenches.
No, it's a great call. We talk about Oklahoma and what they can do getting after the passer, second in the country in sacks. Missouri, 13th. I mean, it's another really good defensive, front, and I certainly have a pass rush. And something we've definitely learned about this Oklahoma offense this year, and this would go for penalties also, but they cannot get behind the chains. They just don't have any ability to overcome that. So that's a great call. Going to be a big test again for these young OL for Oklahoma. Obviously, again, here come back home against Missouri. All right, shall we pick it? It's been an ugly year picking games. I'm going to be honest. It's been a hard to predict year. We thought Oklahoma was going to beat Texas. They didn't. We thought they would beat Ole Miss. They didn't. Didn't think they would win in Knoxville, and they did. Didn't think they'd win in Tuscaloosa, and they did. It's been hard to predict all season long, but we're going to give it our best shot anyway. If you could predict it, that wouldn't make it any fun. That's sports, I guess, college football. Tom, you can get it started. You get the honors to take a first crack at it. Oklahoma, a pretty solid favorite, actually, this weekend against the Tigers. I'll pull it up on the CBS Sports app to get the latest line here. I think it was 7.5 last I saw. Yeah, 7.5, over under at 41.5. So Oklahoma over a touchdown favorite in the CBS Sports app. Tom, where are you at with this game on Saturday? How does Oklahoma fare against the Tigers?
I just want to start out full transparency for our listeners and our viewers. We did discuss earlier in the week just committing to the bid and all of us picking Missouri.
I think the VIP board is going to be mad if we all pick OU. I think they're going to be legitimately mad.
But, yeah. So, but I am going to pick Oklahoma to win this one. The exact score, I don't know. I think a lot of it depends on the health of Bo Pribula and whether he plays and how effective he can be. But I think that Oklahoma understands what's at stake here. The defense is certainly rolling. The offense has been able to eke out enough. Special teams has obviously been a huge difference for them this year. And Brent Venables, we've talked about it before. This team has not historically under Brent Venables been able to handle success well. We saw that in 2023 when, they come out of Texas, they get that scare against UCF and then slip up against Kansas and Oklahoma State. Last year, things just kind of derailed earlier in the season. But, this year, coming out of that Tennessee game, they had a week to recalibrate, but they were able to bounce back and, do the same thing on the road against Alabama. How will they do it against after a quick turnaround against a good Mizzou defense? We'll see, but I just don't think there's going to be a sense of complacency with this team, just knowing how close they are to achieving that goal of making the playoff. And I think they'll be able to pull it out. I think I'll go 27-17 Oklahoma.
I'll be honest as well. In addition to the running bit, I have recognized that if I pick against Oklahoma, if I wear the exact same outfit that I have now at the past couple of games, and if I post an Instagram story from the stadium, the outcome remains the same. I am tempted to do the same there, but at the same time, I think that, and this is me grasping at straws again, in a weird way, I feel like it's better for Oklahoma to handle the success that we're talking about, that they're facing this Missouri team. If this were the LSU game, it may be a little sleepy, a lot of stuff going on. at LSU, but that Tigers team has a lot of talent too. I still feel like all the college football playoff stuff aside, whether it's the debated rivalry or the way things ended last year, or just overall the way that this specific matchup can garner a lot of buzz on its own. And then, oh, by the way, everyone knowing what lies ahead, I think Oklahoma's going to be ready to play. I think Oklahoma's excited to get back home and play against a team like Mizzou. And Josh, you talked about it a little bit. They're 0-3 against ranked teams is Mizzou. The Tigers, all 7 wins or whatever the case may be against unranked opponents.
Yeah.
They're going on the road. They haven't necessarily had to do that. There are questions at quarterback. I think that is a very serious issue, especially when you're getting ready to face an Oklahoma defense like this. And again, I think that not only is OU motivated to push towards the playoff, I think OU is motivated to play this Missouri team. And so I'll pick Oklahoma to win 20-10. I could see it being a little bit ugly. I think that the under might be a favorable one in this game, but I think that the Sooners go ahead and get the victory on Saturday.
Yeah, this game has a weird vibe to it. It does. I think that I can see why it would make OU fans a little nervous just because of everything. It's like we have been all, I think, collectively guilty of kind of just putting Oklahoma in the playoff after what they did the last couple of weeks. And like they still have to find a way to win these 2 home games that I don't think are going to be easy. I think this is going to be a close game. I think late in the third quarter into the fourth quarter, it's going to probably be a 1-score game. And Oklahoma's going to have to be the better team, down the last 10 to 15 minutes of game time to win. I do think they will do that. I'm going to take Oklahoma to win the game. I feel pretty good about them handling, like Collin said, I think they're excited to come back home. I think there's a lot of kind of disdain, frankly, for Missouri, especially what happened last year. So I think they're going to be ready to play the game. I just think Missouri is a pretty good team. And so they're going to give them a game, no doubt. I think this is going to be a competitive one deep into the second half. But I feel like the offense will play better at home. In a game kind of similar to what we saw early in the year, thinking like maybe like kind of like the Auburn game. It's back and forth. Oklahoma just kind of the better team in the second half, and they find a way to make the big plays late defensively and get it done. I'm not going to lie. Tom stole my score. I'm trying to decide if I want to just stick with it or not. I think I'm just going to stick with it because I think there's no rule against this. I'm going to say 27-17 also because I can't think of one I like more than that. So that's what I'm going to go with. I think Oklahoma, again, defense will play well. I think the fact that Pribula can't really move is going to hurt them. And then if it's Zollers is a freshman, hasn't played a lot of football, I think that'll hurt them. So either way, I kind of feel okay about Oklahoma's matchup there. And again, I just think the offense will be – I'm not expecting this offense to ever be incredible this year, right? I mean, we know what it is at this point, but I do think back at home it'll be better. It'll be better. Yeah. So I like Oklahoma to win.
Yeah, and I will say, like we talked about, whether it's Bo Pribula or not, obviously there's some expectation that he might play. But if it's Matt Zollers, another freshman, we talked about it early in the season when Michigan came to town, Brent Venables historically has just put freshmen in torture racks.
Yeah.
So I would not envy Matt Zollers if he has to start this game. But I just think that's another variable to add into it. It's just like Brent Venables knows how to put those guys through a blender.
How did we get 33 plus minutes in without mentioning that they're wearing the Unity uniforms? How do we feel about that? I think that's adding to the weird vibe that they're wearing an alternate this weekend. What do we think?
Call me crazy. I don't know that I care, to be honest with you. I think that I think that they're fine uniforms. I know that everyone gets their feelings about it.
I think they're okay.
If you don't like them, make some better ones. You know what I mean? Like let's work on that. But I know the players like them, and if the players like them, then no one is going to even remember they're wearing them once the game kicks off. You know what I mean?
My issue, selfishly, with the uniforms is from the press box that they don't have nameplates. So it's like, obviously we know the players' numbers, but like it helps to be able to have that extra form of identification.
Sure.
Like especially on special teams where you have some duplicate numbers. What you can't tell whether it's. I can't even think of an example off my head, but whether it's the defensive player or the offensive player on special teams there, because it just says Unity across the back. So, but I mean,
they are undefeated in them for what it's worth, 3-0 since they brought him in Brent's first year, with some nice performances. Against Kansas, who was a ranked team a few years ago. Last year they were against Maine, so I don't know if you want to really count that one. But
was it TCU the year before?
West Virginia.
West
Virginia under the lights in 23. That's the one time they wore them at night. The other 2 times have been during the day, and this time will obviously be during the day as well. So we'll see. I kind of like the helmets. I think the helmets are cool, but the overall uniform, it's fine. I don't hate it. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. I think that's it. We'll be back, obviously, all day and Saturday. Full coverage over on the website. Tons of content leading up to this game. More to come on Friday, going into Saturday, obviously, as well. It's an early kick, so make sure to be with us bright and early over on Sooners Illustrated, Oklahoma.247sports.com. Collin and Tom will have you covered from the press box. I'll be down field level, and we'll all have you boots on the ground in Norman all day. Full post-game reaction on the site afterward on the YouTube channel from Brent Venables, Ben Arbuckle, John Mateer, us, and, of course, the rest of the team. That's it for now. We'll see you on Saturday from the stadium in Norman. For Tom Green, Collin Kennedy, I'm Josh Callaway. We'll see you guys then. Oklahoma hosting Missouri on Saturday.